When you have copied your data onto Google Sheets, Google Sheets will allow you to calculate your means without using your calculator, and it will allow you to produce your graph. The first thing I need to do is I need to find the mean of this set of data. So one way to do this is insert function, and the function you want is average. You highlight the data which you want to find the mean of, and it is these trials. I press enter. You can do that for all of the others. However, there is a simpler trick. Simply click on this little square, drag it down. Now you've got all of your means calculated and correctly. If you wish to, you can go back and check with your calculator. I now need to set things up for graphing. It is possible to use this table to produce a graph. However, it is easier if you just produce a shorter table with just what you want to graph. In this case, I want to graph the height of the ramp, and I'm highlighting the first one. 10 goes in there. I drag it down, and I get all of my independent variables present. I always want to graph against the mean, which is here. So I press equals again and highlight it and press enter. Again, I drag it down and I have all of my means. Notice this set of data is the same as the data provided at the ramp, and this set of data is the same as the means which have been calculated. I want to use this data to produce my graph. So you insert chart. The default chart is a column graph, and this is most definitely not what you want. You need to scroll down until you get to a scatter graph, and this is the graph that you want. Then you look at customizing your graph. Don't worry about chart style. You can change colors, etc. if you wish to. However, chart axes and titles are important. First, a chart title. Your chart title should relate to your experiment. In this case, notice it appears above. In this case, I highlighted, we're looking at the relationship between the height of the ramp, that is your independent variable, and the speed of the car. If you use a ball, of course, you change the word car to ball. I also like to have this centered. You also need x-axis titles, and this should be what you changed. It should be your independent variable, the height of the ramp. And you always want to include the units. Notice as you type, it appears below the x-axis, which is exactly what you want. Now for the y-axis, the vertical axis. Again, you type in what was measured, or in this case calculated, speed, car. And don't forget to include the units, which were meters per second. And you now have a reasonably good graph, but you've only got data points here. You actually want to connect them. You need to look at the series, and you want to put on a trend line. A linear trend line in my case looks okay. However, there's some other possibilities. That looks better. It's closer to most of the data points. Polynomial, even better again. Power series. Of these choices, I think the best looking one is probably the polynomial graph. Notice it is close to all of the data points. I then need to look at my axes. Notice here the minimum value is 10. I actually want to see what happens at 0. So I press there, and it should simply go back to 0. And now all of my data is present. I'm not worried about any other aspects here. This is the data that I want. Vertical axes. Everything here is more or less as I want as well. Notice that everything is reasonably smooth. Again, if I needed to, I could change the minimum value or the maximum value. Grid lines. It is nice to have grid lines, not as auto, but as 10. Minor grid lines as 10. That is for your vertical axes. Horizontal axes. You repeat this process, and you now have a graph. For some reason, this has went up to 90 on the horizontal axes, so I'm going to change that as a maximum. We went up to 50, so I'm putting that up to 50. And also looking at the y-axis, it is now changed, so I'm going to change that as well, so that I limit how high it goes. 3 should be enough. Here's the graph which can be carried across. Oh, I notice there's a problem here with the number of decimals. So I need to again edit the graph. I will just click here. I want to look at the data range. I again need to go to the horizontal axes. The number format, custom, and that is reasonable. I'm happy with this graph. I'm going to copy and paste it into my Word doc or into my Google Doc. Command C, go to this page where you want to paste it. Command V, link to the spreadsheet or paste unlinked. Either doesn't matter. If it's linked to the spreadsheet, as you change the spreadsheet, the graph will change. If you don't want to change, simply paste unlinked. The graph is now on the appropriate page, and your graph should take up the best part of a page. Or at least half a page.